Stop calling it imposter syndrome. It's not imposter syndrome. You're not an imposter, but this is what's really happening. Hey, everybody, welcome back to Own Your Work. We empower people and give people skills and steps to try to figure out how they can take back their ownership of their work and make it work for them so they can own their life. Today, we're going to talk about this myth of imposter syndrome that a lot of people like to label others with. And we start to internalize that and believe that it's true. But what if it wasn't? What if what you're feeling is actually proof of the environment that you're in being completely wrong for you and is not a character flaw? Let's break this open a little bit. The myth that we've been sold is that imposter syndrome is basically like a default mechanism, right? It's a default explanation that we put on other people when they aren't aligned with their environment. Feeling a little bit insecure about your skill set or about your position, that's just imposter syndrome. Maybe you're feeling a little overlooked or unheard. You're just feeling some imposter syndrome. You're fine. Maybe you're anxious in meetings. Maybe you're unsure about your contribution to your team. You're just feeling a little imposter syndrome. Just get over it. It's a convenient way for people to dismiss others, to make others feel as though they are the problem and that it's not something the environment, the boss, the team, the company has to fix. It's kind of trendy. It's kind of like the new way to describe people who you think are just being whiny babies or maybe lazy. But 80% of the time, it's completely wrong. Because in my opinion, imposter syndrome implies that the issue is internal with the person. And I could almost guarantee the situation you're in is probably not an internal issue. It's probably an external issue. But by calling it imposter syndrome, it takes the onus off of the people in the environment, in the external surroundings, and they don't have to actually do anything to fix the problem. You have to. So let's try to figure out what's actually happening when we say, I feel like an imposter, or when you hear someone describe what you're feeling as being imposter syndrome. Usually what you're often feeling is that your skills are very undervalued in the room. They praise your confidence, but not competence, almost as if a veiled insult like, oh, I appreciate the effort or the thought, without actually acknowledging any contribution that effort or thought might have had to the situation. Perhaps you're in a situation where you're working twice as hard and you get half the recognition as a colleague. That's not imposter syndrome, that's inequity. And that is definitely something that the boss has created in the culture. Maybe your work culture, speaking of culture, rewards the loudest rather than the smartest or the hardest worker or the person that contributes the most. Perhaps you've been conditioned to minimize your achievements, especially if you grew up in environments where humility was a survival technique. Or maybe you've never seen someone like you in your space, whether it be physically, whether it be someone from your background, with your accent, with your experience. Maybe someone in this position has always had a college degree and you don't have that college degree, or you don't have that specific background or training. And that you're focusing more on that representation rather than the motivation to actually do the job and to actually perform in that role. And it's not really an insecurity, it's an awareness of, maybe the reason that I can't get that position or that promotion is because they're having a problem or they want something very specific for that role that I can't possibly fill. Basically, the core of having imposter syndrome, in my opinion, is recognizing when the room you're in is the problem, recognizing the environment that you're in is not working any longer. We talk about this a lot on this channel, and it's really, really important that we realize this and don't internalize it as a flaw in ourselves. Because sometimes the reason you feel like you don't belong is because you don't actually belong there, and we need to acknowledge that and stop trying to shrink ourselves to fit the environment. Maybe the culture values aggression over thoughtfulness. Maybe the leadership tends to reward obedience rather than initiative or efficiency. Maybe the job celebrates burnout and you're trying to protect your peace and move away from feeling burnt out. That mismatch is basically an illusion that makes you feel like you're inadequate, but it's really not you. It's the room that you're in. So once we realize that this is the situation that we're in, it's not imposter syndrome and it's not a personal flaw, what can we do to try to fix this? To try to change our mindset and remind ourselves that it's not us, but also try to take steps to get ourselves out of this situation. First thing that you have to remember is it's not something that you fix by journaling or affirmations or fake it till you make it. Those things are valuable in other contexts, but in this context, it is not going to actually get you anywhere. It might make you feel a little bit better in the moment, and by all means, if that is something that you value, go for it. But just know that it's not a long-term solution. There are other things that you're going to need to do in order to prevent that imposter syndrome thought process from penetrating your mind further in the future. So these are the things that you should focus on in order to have a long-term solution to that imposter syndrome. Enter spaces that feel aligned. And if you can't at the moment, take very intentional strategic steps to get to that space. Maybe it's changing jobs. Maybe it's having a conversation with a coworker or a superior. Maybe it's completely changing industries or completely changing to a different skill set. Maybe it's as simple as finding a mentor, someone that you connect with that kind of understands what you want out of life and encourages you. And maybe you don't make the change right away, but it's just about having that shift in mindset and how you're focused on the work that you're doing today. And then starting to realize and think that, hey, maybe I can actually make a change someday. Maybe I can do this for myself. Maybe I can enforce this boundary and feel better about the space that I'm in. Maybe it's not necessarily a mentor, but it's just surrounding yourself with peers and people who actually see your potential and truly want to selflessly see you succeed, not people that are going to bring you down, constantly being negative, constantly worried about other things that are distracting them from their situation, and then projecting that onto you. Choosing environments that are positive for you, choosing environments that value your strengths and acknowledge what you want out of life, and being in rooms where you don't have to shrink in order to be accepted, and removing yourself from the situations where you do feel that way. Confidence grows when you're in the right situation, when you're in the right frame of mind, and when you're surrounded by the right people. Everything that happens through our life is by environment. We have some instincts, absolutely, but we learn more by the environment that we're in and by absorbing things that are happening around us, things people are saying around us, more so than anything that is actually taught to us. So we need to be aware that whatever environments we put ourselves in, whatever people that we have in our lives, whatever job we go to every single day, whatever we do for work every day, all of that has a huge effect on who we are as people. And if we want to change, we have to change those things as well, or at least adjust them somehow. Unfortunately, there is no way around that. You have to do it. And it is really difficult. It's one of the most difficult things I've ever realized is that 99% of the people in my life were toxic, bringing me down in some way, or people that I've outgrown in some way. And I had to leave them behind. I had to cut them out because if I didn't, then I would have never been able to grow and I would have never been able to do all of the wonderful things that I've done for myself. And those people that are in my environment that I do actually really value and care about. Stop letting other people diagnose you with some kind of disorder that you don't actually have. And definitely do not do it to yourself. Start placing yourself in environments and mindsets where you can thrive, where you're the hero of your life, where things are positive in your life and you're not always focusing on the negatives. Sometimes you're not the thing that needs to change. Sometimes it's the environment around you that needs to change. It's not an easy thing to do, but it's a worthwhile thing to do. And that's a good step into owning your life and owning your work. I hope this resonated with you. Please let me know in the comments. If there's anything that I can do to help, please let me know as well. I hope you got something out of this. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time.